Okay, it is all you.
Okay, well, most of you know me, so I guess she gave a little introduction. This is my first, and so don't hesitate to interrupt me, to ask questions. This is pretty intense training, some of which, as I went through it, we use, some of it we don't, some of we think up using that we don't think we're gonna use. And so that part was pretty interesting to me, just understanding the whole process. And one thing I made a promise to myself and to a couple people here that are like my bosses, that I was gonna run through this and train myself and do a district at the same time I was training. And as I was going through this, I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna do the district, then I'm gonna go back through this. So, as people that are experienced, that does matter when you're going through trainings. I find that I miss notes. Well, when we're going through training now, I can't miss a note, I can't miss a line. And so if I do in here, it's because my comfort level has exceeded my knowledge level, and that's not always good. So, having said that, again, don't hesitate to ask questions. I don't know how many of you have already submitted your calendars. Has anyone not submitted their calendar at all? Okay. Well, we'll get that done today. That's our goal. So we're gonna start with the handout, the FY26 Calendar Checklist. And of course, we have the change log, which is, look at that, empty. It was updated. The table of contents, which is extremely helpful when you're just looking for one thing after you get out of this training. So moving on to page 3, there's a note at the top and it says EMIS changes 2667. Creates a new detailed attendance record, and they're gonna move the FS record. I don't think they're gonna move it. They're gonna. The first thing you read in here when you see that, and we'll keep you guys updated on that piece when it actually happens and what it's gonna look like, if it's gonna look different at all, or if they're just changing the name of something. So the overview is a lot of good information, the minimum hours per calendar, which you can see preschool through 6, 7 and above, and then community schools. Just gives you a reference so that you have something to look back on if you're like, man, are we gonna hit the hours that we need, taking these snow days, or we have these non-attending days, whatever that might be. Moving on, period C calendar requirements. And again, this is very interesting when you're thinking about subcalendars, the master calendar, and thinking about staggered start dates. Are you actually reporting all the calendars that you need to report? Do you have a kindergarten calendar? Is it staggered start? Are your seniors getting out of school? Do you have that subcalendar where your seniors are leaving 5 days early? Preschool, do you have a preschool calendar? And those are things that we're all gonna get into today. So moving on to page 4, and I'll keep kind of referencing back. And again, if I move too fast, if I move too slow, please don't hesitate, to stop me. So a majority of your students are all gonna be on your default calendar. You can only have one default calendar that has the asterisks, and we're gonna get into each and every one of these calendars. This first part of the training kind of goes through, goes through some scenarios, some that we would use and some that we wouldn't use. So that's kind of interesting. So we're not gonna go into these scenarios, but we are gonna talk a little bit about the attendance pattern. And if you go in on page, whoops, I'm gonna keep going here. If you wanna check your attendance patterns, that's something that we're gonna do today. We're gonna check your subcalendars today. So we're not gonna go through the scenarios right now, but we will end up going through a whole scenario piece. The reason we're not doing that is that we're not to that point yet in our training, or I didn't feel like I was to that point yet. So when you move on to page 5. The calendar reporting. It goes through the very final steps that you're gonna use in your calendar reporting, which is the EMIS piece, picking the calendar database and sending it over to EMIS-R. Now, a lot of times, no one really explains how this actually works. Everything has to be done in DASL progress book. Your calendar, your S collection, doesn't matter what you're doing, those things need done in DASL progress book, whatever you guys call it, and it needs transferred into EMIS-R. But all your corrections, all your data has to be done there first, or it doesn't go to EMIS-R correctly. And it's not submitted correctly. And so this just tells you what the end you're gonna do at the end, and we'll go back to this. But again, you know, being around for such a long time, I feel like we need to start in the DASL progress book piece before we end up at the very end where we're actually transferring the data over. All right, page 7. Master calendar. So the first thing that happens in the calendar is done during school year initialization, during that checklist. And I think Shelley, if I'm not mistaken, trained that this year. So your calendar, your master calendar is set up on that day. When you're doing all of your non-attending days, all of your holidays, all of those things are set up during that initialization process. And if you don't care, Nita, I'd like to share just a little bit. So what happens is that a holiday is a non-attending day. But we always, in initialization, we want to separate those out where we're saying, oh, well, this is Labor Day, or this, you know, is a holiday. It doesn't have to be called Labor Day, but some people call it a holiday. And then in the notes, put Labor Day, or, you know, President's Day in the notes, you know, they might put holiday, but then they put President's Day. So when you're actually doing what we're gonna be doing today, which is EMIS exceptions, you already have an idea of what those are. What we found was if you mark those days non-attending and then you don't have a little description there, it makes it hard for the person that's doing the exceptions. Because everything looks the same, your Saturdays, Sundays are non-attending, then you have your Christmas break says non-attending. So you have to get out your calendar, make sure that you've done that, and that you mark those. It's easier if somebody that does the initialization has marked those as holidays, or really, the more detail, the better. For everybody involved, it's a lot easier to go through that part. So, having said that, the master calendar is not used to create and report EMIS exceptions. Let's remember that. It's doing the master calendar. So the purpose is that that's where everything starts. That's where it starts. Corrections that you made are gonna be done there. Calendar dates wizard. So the calendar date wizard is used to update or change the master calendar once it was created. So everybody knows these are all created in initialization. Things can change. So this just kind of gives us an idea. EMIS exceptions. The calendar dates wizard does not create EMIS exceptions. When an event is added, a snow day, it does not create an exception. It just puts it in the master calendar. EMIS exceptions must be updated in the subcalendars when we're doing the EMIS EMIS exception management. The other thing you need to remember is that teacher history could also be affected when there are any changes to the master calendar. So, for example, last year, a few of us, we had, well, myself, I was given a calendar, did initialization, and found out that the day we came back from Christmas break, winter break, was a teacher work day and not an attendance day for students. But the original calendar that I used for initialization said it was a student attending day. So it changed. First of all, they couldn't take attendance, they couldn't do anything because all the dates were wrong. It meant the dates were wrong everywhere. So not only did we start our second semester on a different date, the students started on a different date. So all of those things need corrected. I think a few of us in this room had that happen. My date was changed to a teacher work day instead of an attending day. So I had to go back, and it's not a one-step process. It's a 3-step process. What's crazy about it is it is in this checklist on if it does happen, how to fix it. But Shelley sent me the 3-step process, and I thought, oh, I don't have to do all 3. I mean, but I already fixed this and this. Yeah, it's better if you just start from step 1 and go through step 3. And then it's amazing and it gets fixed. So I can relate to most of the things that happen, and I can also relate to the fact that sometimes you're just in a hurry and you just, if somebody has the answer, you just need the answer. And so I get both sides of this, but it was funny when I found it in here and I was like, oh, I asked Kelly to send that to me separate. Good, but it did help me, by the way, Shelley, it probably saved me time, so anyway. Moving on, we're gonna go to page 8. And we're gonna review the attendance patterns, and I would suggest that everybody does this. And so on your screen, if you go to student information, management, school administration, EMIS, attendance pattern maintenance. And I'm gonna bring this over here, so everybody can see what this might look like, in case I was talking too fast. Okay. So you can see your not applicable, which is your default calendar, everybody's gonna have the double asterisk, and then you can see 12th grade. Yours will not match this, you will do your own attendance pattern, so if you have a kindergarten staggered start, and it's 3 or 4 days, you're gonna see 3 or 4 days of kindergarten staggered start. You can see preschool, PM only, preschool AM only. This is done at the district's discretion, how the district wants you to set this up in accordance with House Bill 410, and taking attendance, all of that stuff all falls into the exact same thing. So you can see there's a ton of choices. There is someone like Tracy Bender out there, and I'm sure she's on Zoom maybe, that she may have, I don't know how many calendars, maybe 100, I'm probably wrong, she's gonna correct me, I'm pretty sure. But where she has preschool calendars, but in all the different places, they're all different. And so she's have all those different calendars, and she may have a ton of attendance patterns based on that too, I don't know, 43. Oh, 43, okay, so I overestimated, so she didn't have as much work as I thought. Just kidding. So anyway, it's always good, and this is also where you would add an attendance pattern, if you have something that comes up. And you think, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to do a sub-calendar, but I need to do an attendance pattern to match that sub-calendar. So like your senior is gonna have a sub-calendar, and it's gonna have attendance pattern of seniors only, or something similar to that, whatever you decide to name that. Does everybody understand that piece?
What if you have calendars on here that I've never seen used? Like there's a full day every other day.
Okay, so you can, full day that's how preschool used to be done, I think maybe back in pandemic or something,
Oh.
or maybe before that. So you can take out, all you have to do is inactivate them.
Okay,
They're still gonna hang out there if you ever needed them again, so you just go and you can.
Okay.
But I think most of the time you wanna clean those up, cause they're not doing anything, and I did
Okay.
notice that in other districts, like I do a couple
I figured
districts,
it
and
was
I clean those up for sure. And so the attendance patterns are not always grade specific. I mean, they could count for, the default, which counts for how many kids, the majority of your kids in the district, your seniors, is only for seniors, preschool. But there are some that could account for more too, just depending on how you set those up. Now, I'm gonna say that your attendance pattern and calendars do have a lot to do with each other. And I think we found that out during the KRA submission, that if your calendar on your general tab did not match your calendar on your FD tab, it did not load kindergartners properly into the KRA system. Well, it didn't do the download properly. I don't know how many people ran into that, but a lot of times the buildings will change that general tab, they will not go into that FD tab. In this case, it did affect the downloads for the KRA system, because those two things, and you don't think calendar matters, it matters when you're doing downloads. So just to bring that up. Alrighty. I'll pull this over. And we're gonna go on to task 3, creating and updating subcalendars. Now, if you go, I'm gonna bring this back over, sorry. When you go into your subcalendars, and you can do this a number of ways, student information, management, School administration again. Scheduling administration. And to subcalendars, that'd be the very last choice down there. Oh. And. Subcalendars, now this is at the high school level, you have to remember, your master calendar is, every building has their own master calendar. So the district doesn't share necessarily a completely same master calendar. So when you're looking at your subcalendars, you also don't share your subcalendars with different buildings either, so this is high school only. You can see the default non-attending calendar, the default, early dismissal kids. And then you can also see JVS AM, JVS PM, and then your senior calendar. So it used to be 3 days early, I think now it can be up to like 5 days early or more on the senior calendar. This is also where you would add sub-calendars if you find that there's calendars that you need out there, all of a sudden, you know, like maybe you have a early dismissal student, but you don't have that. Maybe there are 20 seniors that come in late or come in or leave early every single day. They leave 2 hours early. That would be an early dismissal, and that's 20 kids. So how do you want to report that? That's what you have to decide as a district. How do you want to report that? Same thing with the kids that come in, late arrival. You know, maybe you've got half of your seniors coming in late arrival. You know, are they still gonna be able to meet their hours too? So you wanna weigh all of those things. So to be able to create sub-calendars, what does your district need? How do you wanna report that attendance? How do you want this to look, okay? Is there any questions here in adding sub-calendars? It's the same thing with taking them away. If you go in there and you see, shoot, we haven't used this one for 5 years, do you even want it hanging out there? And you could inactivate it. Any questions on that? Anything on Zoom?
No, nothing else.
All right. So what happens on page 10, it goes in to explain how to add it, maximum absence letter, start time, end time, that's what you need to change, that's what you need to do on your sub calendar. So if I go into the senior calendar right now, I can see that it's really just a 3-day early, that's all it is. So if school ended on the 25th, they're getting out on the 22nd. Whoop, that's the only thing that changed there. Oh, just lost my stuff. Really did just lose my stuff. There we go, I got it. So, but you also have the ability to change the time. If you made an early dismissal calendar, you could say those kids start normal time, but they're leaving every day at 1 p.m. So that's just an FYI, I'm not telling you how to do it, I'm telling you that there's all of these things that can affect your attendance. That might make somebody's job easier. Okay, we're gonna move on to task 4. All right, this is the fun part. Calendar attributes and EMIS exceptions. So it'll be all kinds of fun. Non-attending days. Are days school is not in session or that students are not expected to be there. That's what it is. Now, the master calendar will not create exceptions. Those are manually created based on a master calendar or based on a sub-calendar on what you're going to do. So calendar exceptions are days that the sub-calendars may have a non-attending day, a lengthened or shortened day, while the master calendar says it's a regular day. So there's all kinds of things that can happen there. So is there days, for example, that every Friday in a district, the teachers have a professional day for 30 minutes every Friday. So that the kids are, it's 35 minutes, so the students are there for 6.5 hours per day, but the teachers are in professional development for 0.35. Those are both exceptions. It's not a non-attending day. It's an attending day, but they're not, the students are getting out every Friday, 30 minutes early. 35 minutes early. Those are exceptions, which would cause 2 exceptions in the exception management string. So anytime that you have anything, so you have all those non-attending days for Christmas break. Those are all 0 days, getting 0 hours. And I think, the question was, would it matter if we left those as not a holiday, we left those as a non-attending day? And you just did the exceptions, because you have to do the exceptions no matter what. Any day that is on the master calendar, that the students are not in school that's been logged, so you have to realize Monday through Friday has been logged as a school day. So what dates in that area are not logged as a school day? Thanksgiving break, Christmas break, holidays, and any other exception. Oh, get out 30 minutes early. We've gotta do an exception for that. Or the teacher has professional day. You wanna get credit for that professional day. The only way to do that is to do that EMIS exception. So we're gonna talk about those. And I'm gonna tell you guys that the calendar was it was the worst thing for me to learn. I mean, I probably called people in this office for 2 years trying to get through this. Because how some things just don't come, just wouldn't come. And that's where I was. And so Shelley Hewitt, she did not kill me. She may have wanted to. And she was very firm, I remember. But it was something that I had to get through until I could understand exactly how to do this. The cool part is that if you look at the bottom of page 12, it's really sad for me, but for the rest of you guys, if you look at the bottom of page 12 and into page 13, it tells you exactly what I could figure out. When do you have to do an exception and when do you have to add hours? That was my thing, is when do I need to put hours in there and when do I not need to put hours in there? So, but this one tells you a planned holiday, when you do the exception, you put zeros in because nobody's coming into school that day. And so it's always zeros, but you would have to put them in. So if you go down through on page 12 and 13, it tells you how to do a snow day. It tells you you're not in school, there's no hours that you can put into that snow day. There's other calamity day with online day plans, and I don't know if anybody has those, but those are key too, in knowing that those students do get credit for a limited amount of hours there. How many hours do they get credit? Again, a non-attending day, if it's a weekend day, there's nothing we do that with because we don't claim Saturdays or Sundays. Now, if you have kids that have to come to school on a Saturday, then you've got to change that on your master calendar. We'll go through that too. Half day, calamity days, maybe there's a half day school day that was unplanned, maybe it was planned. You have your parent teacher day. And so it just goes down through, I'm not gonna read them all, but it goes down through each one. And do you need to report hours? Do you need to report an exception? So it goes through everything, sadly, that I asked for 2 years that was here. But then sometimes I still worried about whether I put the right hours in or whatever. So those are all very clear. What's your normal hours in an attending day? What are the hours the kids are attending that day? Or are there 0 hours that they're attending that day? Everybody understand that piece?
Brenda, so why is there a teacher in-service day and a teacher work day?
They are actually, the teacher gets credit for both of those.
Yeah.
So the in-service day, I don't think there's a difference in how it's gonna log
Okay,
ultimately, because they're still going to work.
cause that's what I have a note here.
service, they're getting some type of professional developments,
Yeah,
where a work day
Right.
is records day or something like that.
And so
Well-
there's,
They don't have to attend anything, they can be in their classroom.
okay, and they have that little thing in the parentheses, if professional development is received, it's like.
Yeah.
Because it's an or, but I will think of workday really as in their classroom, just working,
just working,
okay,
but the professional days are also logged in your building. How many professional days are you providing for your staff? And that gets logged when you're doing your building information. So those two things, how many is staff reporting, and how many are we reporting in our building and in our calendar? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So that district I was talking about that has 35 minutes almost every Friday of an entire school year, that probably adds up to the 3 days that they're allotted for their in-service days. So. All right, so moving on, which is so exciting. Additional calendar attributes just goes into explaining other things that can happen. Following attributes are reported when specific values are checked on the sub-calendar maintenance in the EMIS section. So they have no dates associated with them. So when you're doing this, not expected to be in attendance between the first and the last day of school on every Friday, okay? So one thing that they told us, a lot of times, I don't know if everybody remembers this, is like you have your preschool and they go from Monday to Thursday. And then Friday is a makeup day, if needed, because now preschools are required, yes, ECE grants are required to do so many hours. And so if an ECE preschool cancels school, snow day, whatever, they have to make that day up because they don't have additional time that they can do that. So doing that, we have to make sure that we've reported everything we're supposed to report. What I found when I went through this training is that, they recommend that you put 5 days for your preschool, even though they're only going 4 days. They recommend you do Monday through Friday and then do an exception for every Friday as a non-attending day. So then it's easier to correct. I've not ever done that until I listened to this training and thought, wow, every time I have to fix that, it would be easier if it was just a non-attending day, instead of me marking that they never come on Friday. Then having to fix that. So in our beginning here, for the required hours, I truly think.
I do it, I'm not,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
was just
truly
curious.
think that
Yeah.
ODE will be watching more of the general hours
Okay.
for preschool. Because most of the preschools do this sometimes, so preschool through 6, it's 910 hours, it does not separate that out on page 3 at all, so. All right. So we're gonna move on to page 17, if no one has any questions. Nobody else, right? This is adding EMIS exceptions to the subcalendars. This is probably one of the biggest jobs. So once initialization is done, everybody thinks, oh, well, there's nothing else, you know, we're done now. We're just, calendar's done, it's set, these days are holidays, these days are not exceptions, or.
So one, I don't, during SYI, since it is not you guys a majority of the time here. I do skip that part in SYI, so the EMIS exceptions are not created. So just an FYI, I kind of just glance over it.
Which is probably a really good trade piece at this point, because it's also, when you're talking about checks and balances, you got somebody that might be doing that initialization, but then you've got a different person coming in to do the EMIS exceptions. What was missed, what wasn't missed, also knowing who's doing those initializations, and knowing that maybe that doesn't blend with EMIS, being able to work as a team to make sure that those do blend better is also a good idea. So, page 17, adding EMIS exceptions to subcalendars. EMIS exceptions must be added to each subcalendar for any calendar exception date noted on the master calendar. From that point on, all subcalendars must be maintained individually. You don't always do everything the same for each calendar you have in each of your buildings. So sometimes you can't gather everything up and report it all the same. You've got to report it by sub-calendar. Now, there's also things that you can gather up and report together. Everybody's off during Thanksgiving break or during certain holidays where you can, every single calendar is gonna be off. I had someone say, yeah, but what about the non-attending calendar? What if I gather that in with everything else? You know, there is a place that you can click all of them. Your non-attending calendar will not report any attendance, so it doesn't matter. So if you just click the button, if it's truly every other calendar, that calendar's not really gonna matter. OD is not looking, or DO is not looking for anything in that calendar. Other than that they're a non-attending student, their calendar is somewhere else, so. Okay. So. It's the same thing with snow days, you might not, they might, high school, middle school might have showed up for school. And then your elementary did not show up for school. Or your preschool showed up and the rest of the elementary didn't show up. I mean, so you have to know which student showed up for certain days. So creating exception days, for EMIS reporting, you will need to create exception days. Either inside or outside the normal school calendar, so let's remember that. Did you do initialization and then did the first day of school change? Uh-oh, and we'll talk about that, that means you're gonna be doing, or did you start school for 2 of your 5 buildings, but the other 3 were still under construction? And you needed to put off that first day of school for 3 of your buildings. Those are just some examples. Okay. The calendar exceptions management page may be accessed at the district or building level, based on how you want to do the exceptions. Within the district content, you can select any calendar in any building at your district. But if you are in the building, then you're only gonna be able to work on just those building calendars. Okay, so the other thing you have to realize is that on page 18, calendar exceptions screen does not display school day on days prior to the start or the end days on the master calendar. So I have a preschool that started 2 days before the regular master calendar. And I panicked a little bit last year. This year I just said, just do the preschool calendar, it's a different start date. But you panic because it's not within the start date of the school year. So they talk about this. You can see on this screenshot above and all. Oh, I guess it's right here, sorry. You can see on this screenshot where the subcalendars begin on August 19th, but no other school day is designated to start on that date. They start on the 20th or whatever, it doesn't matter, they just have different start dates, this is where you would fix that in the subcalendar piece, yes.
So I would need to do that because we started on the 2nd of September, but the preschool started.
Yes, so you go into the preschool calendar, you're gonna change their start date only. And the rest of their calendar may follow everybody else, but your start date does not follow. And sometimes your end date doesn't follow, so this is also, where we're gonna talk about the senior calendar. Okay, so as we move down this page, we're going to take some time. And we're going to do student exceptions. Now, you can do student exceptions 1 by 1. And you can do it in bulk. I'm kind of the bulk person. But there are always times that you have to only do it, like we just talked about. 1 building had a snow day, 2 buildings didn't have a snow day. You're gonna do those separately, but when you're talking about your holidays, or you're talking about any holiday, any holiday you might have, Labor Day, President's Day, Thanksgiving, Christmas break, spring break. That's a big chunk of your holidays. You can do those as a bulk exception, and you can pick all those dates. What you can't do is you cannot pick weekends, don't pick any weekend days. So did everybody bring their calendar? Because that's pretty key to getting through this next piece. So when you go in here and I'm gonna look at it 2 different ways. So student information. EMIS. I'm in the wrong place, I'm sorry. Oh yeah, I'm not. Calendar reporting, sorry. Calendar exception management. Okay, so you can see the calendar bulk exception, or you can see calendar exception management. Where you would go in and actually just pick the calendars you wanna mess with. So in this case, I'm in the high school, so I can only mess with the high school, I cannot touch anybody else, but if I'm in the district. I can go in and I can say, oh, well, I wanna do the elementary this time and I can pick it, but if I go into The bulk exception management. I can go into this and I can say, what do I wanna do? And if I wanna do a holiday, for instance. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna add an exception. And I'm going to pick my exception, which is gonna be a planned full day. We already planned to be off that whole day. This is where you're gonna put in your 0 hours. And this is where you're gonna take your calendar and you're gonna add days. So if I was to look at a calendar. And I would say, well, I'm gonna add all my holidays right now. This is what I'm gonna do, add all my holidays. And I'm gonna say, well, the first one was September 1st. And I can go in and I can pick September 1st. And then I'm gonna say, oh, well, Fair Day, woo-hoo. The 8th, I'm gonna pick the 8th, that was the other holiday we gave. Then I can go clear down, and I can say, okay, Thanksgiving break, I'm gonna have to jump to November, and I can jump to different months. And I can pick, oh, 26, 27, 28. But in this case, this district doesn't come back until November. I do not pick the 29th and 30th, those are already weekend days, they're not involved in the calendar, and I can pick first. I can keep going and I can do Christmas break. Whatever it may be, skip the weekend, pick the other days. And we're not coming back till when? Okay, so this is where I messed up last year and I had us coming back on the 5th, but the teachers had a work day on the 5th. So those are things, now I would have to do the 5th different, so I can pick it. I can pick it as an unattended day for the student, but then I've got to put in that it's a work day for the teacher so that they get credit for it. So I can go through every single month, every holiday. Because I also don't want to lose my place in this. So I want to do it holidays, teacher work days, professional days. I want to make sure that I take this step by step. And so I may go through and I may mark every single holiday only. And I can say, okay, I want to use these days, although I would do spring break, I would add everything else, I'm gonna use these days. I'll say, okay, well, now, what do I really want to do this? Is the entire district gone during those days? Is the entire district gone? Yes, they are. So I would pick the elementary schools, all their calendars, and the high school, all their calendars. So however many buildings you have, if you're under the district level, you can pick every single calendar. So you're not doing these, I mean, we used to do these one calendar at a time, if you can imagine. But the upgrades have been amazing. And all I have to do is save this. And it's gonna take a while because there's a lot to be saved there. And I don't know if anybody's ever done this on this test site, so I don't know if it'll come back as an error for me or not. But once I save that, I've already done all my holidays. They're done. It's amazing. It probably saves, hours, it saves hours. And I used to spend hours on that. Mainly because I didn't understand. So when I switched districts, I used to do the calendar at one, and then when I went to the other one, somebody else was doing it. I'm like, no. Let me keep doing calendar, because I struggled with it so bad that I couldn't give it up. Because I just wanted to understand it. So like, I really like doing calendar now. So the problem with that is I like it so much that I don't know how great I am at training it. Because I just think I had to work so hard in understanding it that, it is. So you need to wait and make sure that that was a success. And if anybody knows me, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna look at my exceptions. I'm gonna say, well, did that really work? Did I really see that? And you can see that in the calendar exception management. If I just I can go back to high school and I can just say, well, let me just check, my default calendar. I can
Go straight over.
Oh, there you go. Here, my thing's messing with me. I'm just gonna go, I wanna see this, because I wanna see that it happened. And I can see that September 1st, September 8th, and then I can jump to each month and I can say, okay, it took. Because if something doesn't take, you don't wanna find out later that it didn't take. So big, I would wanna see November, did my holidays take in November? And they did. Did they take in December? And they did. So I would want to see those. Now I'm gonna give time to go through this. And I don't know about on Zoom, so they may have to tell us. So for anyone who hasn't done their exceptions, for anybody who's done their exceptions, this might be a good time to take a restroom break. For those who haven't done their exceptions, this would be a great time to go ahead and do your exceptions, because what we'd like to do at the end of this is submit the C collection while you're in training, so that if you've got errors, we can see those errors and you can ask those questions during training. So I'm gonna give some time, and so those on Zoom, if you guys will just let us know that you're ready to move forward, but we won't even question you until 10. We'll stay, we will not pressure anyone, and if you're not done at 10, we'll just need to know that you're not done at 10. How many in the room are gonna work on exceptions right now? Okay, so if anybody in the room has questions while we're working through this, we can answer those questions hopefully as you go. A lot of times you don't know that there's a problem until you've already tried to submit and you get errors. The other thing, and I'm gonna stop just for a minute, the other thing is that, you know how I talked about that district that, oh my gosh, they're off every Friday. Yeah, but they're only off, the students only get out like 35 minutes early. So I'm gonna show you how to do that, just in case you have instances like that. And that's where you can still go into the bulk exception management, and you can pick. Take it a minute. So I would do the same thing, except here I would pick. Oh, geez, I thought I did too. I would pick, staff. It's gonna be a shortened day, a planned shortened day for every student. And they're only gonna be in school for 6.15 hours. But then I'm gonna add another one, and I'm gonna pick a staff. Five. That we're missing off that. Then I'm gonna go down, I'm gonna say, well, this happens almost every Friday, you know. And so if they had school, it would happen every Friday, and I would go through every month. And I would pick that they have a 35-minute professional day on that date. And I'm just gonna use that many days, even though they do it the entire school year. I added those days, and I'm gonna come down here. Is it every single building? That's the next question. In this case, this district is every single building. Every staff member has the same thing on Friday. I'm gonna say that. It's gonna create 2 exceptions for those kids on those days, 2 exceptions on that calendar for those days. And it's gonna take a few minutes, okay? So if I go back in and I have to go to just the bulk exception management, or not the bulk, the calendar exception, and I'm gonna look at Fridays. And I didn't save it. There
You're
we
in
go.
December.
Oh, I'm in December, no wonder, sorry, thanks. So if I go back, I can see that I've got a staff professional day, and I've got a planned shortened day for the students. They're leaving every day, 35 minutes early. Have to report it. Why would you report it? It's only 35 minutes. We've never reported it in the past. Have you ever heard that? We never reported that in the past. Well, when you get audited and you show them your calendar that says, you know, professional day every Friday, when students get out every day and you don't report it, you're gonna be maybe more hours than that student is in school being educated. So that is why the calendar is so important. It's the same thing with your professional day if you take a whole day. Except that you're gonna do a non-attending day for students, a professional day for staff. So having said that, we are now seriously going to give you guys time to work.
I have a question, when you put those exceptions in, that very first drop down where it says use master calendar day. If and when do you change that, does it matter?
Well. Let me just look back, now you got me,
So,
look at, she's gonna.
I do, so can you
She's gonna-
move to September?
Yep.
So if you guys could not hear, Trisha's question is when you use, what does it say, the master
Yeah,
calendar?
Very top,
first
very
drop.
top.
So for example, that would be, so like a snow day, it's gonna happen because it was originally planned school day. So you are actually gonna go into the master calendar and change this from school day to whether it's calamity day or whatever it might be. So in this case, we put it as a planned full day, cause we knew it was fair, so it shouldn't have been a school day, we need to change it from school day to calamity day.
So you do need to
Or
change your
unplanned-
master
unplanned.
calendar when it was a planned full day.
But then I still am, when you're, if you go to the block exception. Like it says it overrides what's in there. I think is what it says. But I don't know that it matters,
Oh, I see, use master calendar date.
if you're doing anything
I mean,
there.
so this would be my recommendation, is you can change it here, it went from a planned full day to a calamity day, snow day. You can change that to a snow day, but I 100% would go in and check, and so let's do that, let's put it.
So then everything would have to be a snow day, so like, for example, like Anita's, everything was put in as a non-attending day. So if she's picking all her days and she changes them to a holiday. Then all those dates need to be holidays. Cause it'll override everything with the same.
Right.
So I'm going to pick this, actually, that's
Our
a
spring
really
break was
great
marked
question.
as non-attending by somebody else, and usually it's not, it's usually marked holiday. So that's what she's talking about.
I just feel like it doesn't really matter whether you change it there or not.
I have a tendency to agree with you, I'm gonna take December 12th as a snow day. And I'm just gonna use that day.
It almost seems like, how descriptive do you wanna be? Like, do you really want the little nitty gritty detail down on the subcalendar, or are you like, whatever the master calendar said?
Right.
I think that's all it's saying, it's flexible for you to
Like I
inherit what it
always
said.
change it to a snow day on the master calendar, but I feel
Oh.
like if you say it there, then you wouldn't have to.
Well, we're gonna look at December 12th. and-
Yeah, I believe it changes it on the master
You
calendar.
know,
Yeah, I think she's right.
Yeah.
What do you do, Janelle?
My building stuff.
I do what she did, I change it there. I double
Master.
check to make sure it changed my master, but it should change your master. I think.
So let's go to December, because I just did it for December 10th and the 12th. So when I go to December 10th, it did not change it there.
Click on the pencil.
So
You have to change it.
You have to change it
You have
both
to change
places
it.
there.
My building secretaries, this is their job, and then I put the exception.
So if you
in.
change it in there, it's not gonna change on your master calendar, that was a
that's what I
great
mean, I
question.
don't think it matters, but
Yeah,
I usually change it on the master calendar as well, but I feel like the way that reads, if you change it in that drop down, then it's overriding the master calendar in your reporting.
but you can see that it is not.
But it didn't change it, but it must be reporting that to them
What's
elsewhere,
reported?
and that's what they're picking up.
It's just picking up, yeah, it's picking up the exception. but
Yeah.
It's not changing the master calendar,
Right.
but you
So
do,
it's still reporting,
so here, you're gonna leave this as a school day, but the actual day was a calamity.
right? And I would rather have it there, because if I'm looking to see, like, did I put all my snow days in? That's where I'm gonna look first, is at that master calendar. For
Yeah,
it.
see, I never changed it over the other thing, but I thought that was a great question when
Yeah,
you asked it, because I thought, wow, if I could save myself having to go in and do this.
So.
I don't think you have to.
What's your exception calendar look like? Did it put anything on there?
Yeah, so if I go to the exception,
Oh, yeah,
December
good.
10th?
Yeah, December 10th.
I'm in high school, yeah, well, I guess it doesn't really matter. And then I'll go to December, and then. Yeah. Snow day, okay, and it did change the type, but that's because I did it in the calendar, I did it on the master calendar, I bet that didn't say that before,
Alright, so the master calendar summary is what I've always been told to use as a guide for like, today we want to do exceptions. And what I discovered by our spring break not being marked as a holiday, it was just marked as non-attending days. Is that it never showed up on my master calendar summary as my little tickler to do an exception. So that's one thing that I guess by it happening recently, because in years past, it's always been marked spring break. But for some reason, people that did it just skipped over that. If you make a holiday a non-attending day, and you're gonna use this as a guide for doing your exceptions. It won't show up there. Am I making sense?
Yes. So you can see how I'm in December, you can see how if I was doing exceptions, I can see that very clearly. Where if somebody just puts a non-attending day, you're gonna see those dates, you're not gonna see any explanation of those dates. So,
It didn't even show spring break on this report because there was more non-attending days.
So the recommendation is make holidays holidays.
I think as Rebecca said, the more detail, the easier this job is gonna be. I mean, more detail, the better. And you kind of stumped me on that at first, I had to look all this stuff up, like, oh my gosh, will it make a difference if you have a non-attending day when it's Christmas break or whatever? And it doesn't make a difference in the number of hours, because you still have to do exceptions for those. But it does make it's a difference when you're trying to do all the extra work that follows this.
I had asked them if I needed to change that, if it would matter. And do I still need to do an exception or not, since it says non-attending? And that's what she covered earlier, that no matter what, how you mark it, you gotta do the exception, but like I said, it won't show up there if it's a non-attending day.
Right, so all the pages that follow 18 through, I think. Probably about a third of it. It also goes through how you do just if you're adding just one calendar or all your calendars. And again, I think most of the time you can do the bulk exception, but you will have times that you need to only change one or two calendars. And you need to only do it for those calendars. Even half-day calendars, whatever pertains, if it's a half-day calendar and half the day was, they let school out an hour early, it didn't affect those kids that only came in the morning. Not really. I mean, doesn't hurt it if you put it in there either, but it doesn't affect those kids. So now we really seriously will give a few minutes. And then we're gonna, when everybody kind of comes back, we're gonna talk about staggered start completely separately. And we're talking about the rest of things. I'm with you, Ronnie can stop your tongue out, in case anybody's wondering. Because those staggered starts are just enough to probably drive most people crazy. We'll talk about those here in the next, after 15 minutes. Everybody go ahead and we stop the recording for a few minutes.
Sounds much better, but before I send it back over to Brenda. When I did the calendar training, I was just like Brenda, I was very confused and so forth. So while you guys were working, I did look up my ticket that I had with Janice from Frontline. Some of the questions that I had. And so one of them was, when do you change the master calendar date type and when don't you? So you only change that master calendar day type if every calendar in the building is that. So if every calendar can be a snow day, then the actual master calendar day type is changed to snow day. But if it is a power outage, or something, maybe your preschool kids aren't gonna come the day because there was a 2-hour delay, and since they're delayed start anyways. So everybody is not going to have, just the unplanned 2-hour delay. Because they're off, then you leave it as is. So it's only if all buildings or all calendars at that building, everything's gonna be the same.
And then should we still change the master calendar?
That would be on the master calendar, yes. So then you would have, can you pull up your calendar real quick again?
The master calendar?
Yes. And I did have screenshots, but I'm not gonna pull that up, but that I sent her and she sent back to me. Sorry, the calendar exception management screen.
Oh,
That was my fault.
I went to the wrong place, I'm so sorry.
I'm putting you under pressure.
You are. Okay, Lisa.
Yes, that one.
I'm in.
Okay, so this is what is on the master calendar. So again, it's every single calendar, so including like your preschool, like I said, if your preschool has a complete day off, but everybody else is only a 2-hour delay, then it stays as school day. But if everybody in the building, it has a snow day, this needs to be changed on the master calendar. This is the EMIS exception calendar, and then this is what you claimed the EMIS exception to be. That is why there's the 3 of them. So that, and it's down at the bottom, so that kind of helped me a little bit again, so that's your master calendar. If you are changing that, on the sub calendar at the top part where we were saying it doesn't, but it's not gonna change this. It's only gonna change it on those calendars that you pick, so that would be this one, and then the actual, the reasoning for the exception. So.
If you're on Zoom and can't see Shelley pointing at the
Oh.
projection, it was December 12th.
Zoom people, sorry, I was pointing to the screen, but no, so if you match up the colors at the bottom, that's what those 3 colors represent, is that master calendar, again, should only be changed if all calendars can be changed. If you change it on that EMIS exception screen, that the master calendar day type, that's the blue. And then the gray is the exception, what the excuse or the exception is.
Okay, so we're gonna get started again, but right before we cut off, Anita had shared that she uses master calendar summary when she comes in to do the exceptions. And I have never used that before. I've always gotten my calendar out, but having the calendar out and having this is amazing to look at. It goes from the start of the school year clear through to however you've done that initialization. And that it really seriously is great. So I did want to bring that up. That's a great resource, and that is under master calendar summary. So I just wanted to bring that up. Now we're gonna jump back in here, and I know some of you guys may have already done this piece too, but we're gonna go to page 26 right now. We're just gonna talk a little bit about staggered start kindergarten. And a lot of you guys have staggered start. And what I have done in the past is I've set my staggered start, it's usually in 3 or 4 days. So if we start on a Monday, we've got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, staggered start, and everybody comes on Friday. So I go into staggered start 1, staggered start 2, staggered start 3, staggered start 4, and I do non-attending days for 3 of those days. Excuse me, and attending days for 2. So depending on what your district does or what works best, do you even count those staggered start days? Because they're not being educated, it's more of an getting this kid in and making them feel comfortable, and then really they all start on Friday. A lot of us have been trained to do the staggered start. Some start on Monday, then they don't have school, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, then they come back on Friday, so 3 of those days are not attending. Excuse me, I must be talking to you. Does anybody have any questions on staggered start kindergarten? Anybody on Zoom?
I don't see anything.
Okay. On page 28, we go on for alternate attendance day, calendar days. I don't know if anybody uses those. I definitely don't want to read down through that if that's just something no one's used. But it's also a great resource if your district ever decides to use that. Where years ago, kids kindergarten would come Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and another group would come Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So those were alternating attendance days too. So just so you know. Again, I think we've kind of grouped those into more of a kindergarten calendar since it's all day. On page 30, we have our senior calendar. Or early release, I'm sorry. Maybe. So Shelley's taking care of me, she's getting me on mute. I'm sorry about that. You guys would think I'd have this just done because I talk all the time. And everybody knows that, so it's not a secret. Okay, so we talked a little bit about this on break two in the room. An early release calendar for seniors. You know, do you have 150 seniors and 75 of them are on early release? Something you need to think about. Is that something that you would use so that their calculation for attendance is exactly right? And that tells you exactly what to do there. We go in on 31 to our preschool calendars. And here we talked a little bit about, oh my gosh, how are we gonna do preschool calendars? Do they come every day? Are they always off on Friday? You know, in some districts, preschool, because they have to have so many hours now, start 2 days before everybody else. So you have a preschool calendar and you can go in and change the date they start, and they get credit for those 2 days that no one else is in school. So that's just, and I talked a little bit about keeping Friday as an exception instead of clicking that Friday that they never come into school. Cause nowadays they have to make up that because they don't have enough hours if they don't. Ooh, this is a new one. And it is on page 33. This is an OTC calendar. And this is when you have a student that goes more than 100% of the time to a career technical. Is there anybody in here, Anita, do you guys use this yet?
We don't have anybody that's qualified yet.
Okay. Okay, so this is just something that you just might wanna read about. None of us that I know of at this ITC use this calendar at this time. But this is a student that does attend more than 100% of the time, you have to add to their calendar. This is not CCP. This is OTC. So, and it's considered Ohio Technical Center. It's where they're attending a technical center that pushes them over the 100% of the time. And so I imagine that this will be something that as parents or kids hear about, that we may get into then. I just don't think it's out there enough right now that we're gonna get into that. Now, as we go on to page 34. Adding subcalendars mid-year when attending days for one grade level within a separate subcalendar have changed. So almost every single thing that can happen is in this checklist. It can happen to your district. Oh my gosh, now they decided that our sixth graders are gonna change their start time and their stop time, or whatever it may be. Something can happen within a subcalendar. Do you need to add a new subcalendar? What do you need to do that would make this work? But again, it tells you, don't forget, if you add a subcalendar, you need to make sure there's an attendance pattern that matches that subcalendar. The reason I say this is that if you're on EMIS cross-reference, that one's called cross-check, EMIS cross-check, you're gonna get calendar errors. It's because your calendars don't match from your general tab to your FD tab. Those are very important to match. You want to make sure that you get those cleaned up, especially if there's an attendance pattern that's linked to that calendar. Oh, then we go into snow days, and we did talk a little bit about snow days, but on page 36. The thing about snow days is, does it affect the whole district? Does it affect just a building? What does it affect? Again, you're only reporting if the high school goes to school all day and the middle school goes to school all day, and it's only the preschool and the elementary that don't go to school that day. Those are the only buildings that have that exception that's gonna be added. And we talked a little bit about, well, what about the master calendar? Master calendar doesn't change for high school and middle school, but it does change for the elementary. Remember, each building has their own master calendar. Is there any question on snow days? Or are we gonna wait till we have one? Then we can all bumble through it together. That sounds like good too. Now, when you have these changes, you know, what if a snow day happens on, I don't know, the end of the semester? What if something weird happens?
First day of the semester, that was last year, right?
Yes. So it's not such an easy fix when you put that in. You think, oh, I'll just change the calendar, everything's gonna be fine. Well, as you can see on page 37, everything's not gonna be exactly fine. So it's telling you, hey, don't forget, your teacher history screen is wrong too. So we all, I don't know if everybody ran into it, but a majority of us ran into this last year. You know, people changed calendars, snow days hit differently, some holidays hit differently. And this will tell you, hey, you gotta change your maintenance on your start dates. And so you have to go into your teacher history maintenance screen and you have to change those start dates. And there is exact instructions on 37, but we can walk through that a little bit too. Where we're gonna go into student information, management, school administration, scheduling administration, calendar exception management, back we go to this. Oh, I just messed up, I'm so sorry. I went the wrong place, I'm so sorry, ignore that. We're gonna go to student information, EMIS, sorry about that one, I jumped ahead to the next paragraph. Maintenance, teacher history, maintenance. And there we go. We can see that we've got to change the start and stop date. And it explains exactly how to do it. It was the 26th, it's now the 27th, according to your manual. So that was a key last year. You know, we thought we changed everything, but then the teacher stuff was still airing out. And so that is definitely something that we need to talk about. Oh, Shelley's holding up. Also, if you go to the front page of your student information. And you go to documentation. I'm gonna get there, sorry. You scroll down, you're gonna see documentation, and that is going to be, I think you'll find it.
I think it's under scheduling.
Okay, plans. Semester and course term date changes. If you click there, it's going to tell you, and there's 3 steps, we talked about those earlier today. There's 3 steps on this, and these 3 steps, best if you follow this completely. Step 1, step 2, step 3, and it's amazing how everything clears up, all your errors go away, you can now take attendance for all your kids. And so this is when your semester end or start date changes, and this is where you can find those. Again, if you forget, just you'll help us take it, and hopefully this is something that I forgot last year. And then when I was reading the manual, I'm like, oh geez, here it is. But last year, Shelley sent this to me, and I think Trish and I even talked through it a couple, I don't remember who all in this room talked through it, but we all seem to have some of the same problems, and so we can kind of work through it, and it does stick in your mind when it's not something easy to work through. It definitely sticks with you. But that's right on your documents page, so that makes it easy to find and easy to follow. All right. Then we talked a little bit about snow days, that's on page 39. And how to do the snow day exception. Talked about how we have to change the master calendar, how we have to log that. Now, the best part about this is there is a bit of an example on here about taking a calamity day. But still, some of you have online working days because you're too close. You know, you've already taken how many snow days? So your teachers are prepared to do an online working day. But it may not be as long as your 6.5 day, so it's a 4.5 day. So you can see where the calamity day was taken, they're not in the building. But an online day was put in instead, and I don't know how many people use that, but I know some districts did use that last year. Is there any questions on that? None? Okay, on page 40. Makeup days, how to change a non-attending day to a school day. Well, the first thing we're gonna do is we gotta change the master calendar. We have to change it from a non-attending day to an actual school day. So if you go in, and let's just go to the master calendar. You're gonna say, oh geez, you know, we were gonna take a holiday on something in, oh, spring break, what if they cut spring break? They have to cut spring break. Oh, shoot, okay, that's okay. We don't have spring break in here.
I don't, sorry.
But that's okay, because we can walk through it. And what you're going to do is you're actually going to change, let's find it, I'm just gonna hit September 27th. Don't copy me on this one. But I see this as a non-attending day, that's how it was planned, as a non-attending day. We're not gonna mess with the top of that. But the actual school day type, now I'm gonna say, we got to change non-attending day to a school day. So I'm going to pick a school day. I can see that changing right off. It was scheduled as a non-attending day, I'm gonna pick a school day. And it's gonna automatically change out to one. And when I say that, which I will. I'm gonna, oh, well, since it's a Saturday, it won't let me change it. I would have to actually go in and make Saturday a working day for the students. Which is not normal to add a Saturday, so I picked the wrong day, but you can see how this would have changed, I would have saved it. And that day, that Monday of spring break goes to a school day. Oh, but do we have to add an exception then? Because it was an unattended day. Yes, you have to add an exception because you want those 6.5 hours. So you're gonna do it in the master calendar, and you're going to add an exception to that. And you're gonna give the kids credit for that day. Is there any questions on that? And that does happen, they cut spring break, they might cut short because they're just they don't have enough hours. Or, you know, they have to add to the last day of school, and they have to change that date, which we'll get to, because guess what the next page is? .42, how to change the last day of reporting term or schedule term. Now, this is when we're changing the last day of the term, not the last day of school. But again, it tells you, and guess what, there's 3 steps, the same thing that we just went over, that's on your front page of documents. 3 steps, but it's here too, just so you know, it's in both places. Which is pretty convenient. And don't forget that teacher history maintenance also has to be done. If we go to page 45. And you guys can see, like, I'm not gonna, if you need, this is such good instruction. That I think if you follow it step by step, you probably don't want me reading it. Step by step, but if you need something that you want me to go over again, I'm happy to go over it. And show an example if we need an example. Okay, so in page 45. Earlier first day of school, how to change first day of school if it's earlier than originally. And it tells you, you must go into the calendar date wizard. Okay, to change that. So we're gonna do that, we're gonna look at it, student information, management, school administration. School building administration. And then you're gonna see calendar dates wizard, not calendar wizard. Calendar dates wizard, very important, not to pick the wrong one. Start date. There it is. So we had to start 3 days prior to what we thought we did. And will that change your course selection assignments? If you change the start date of school, yes, it will. Gotta remember, you gotta go in, and on page 46, it shows you how to go in to change those course selection assignment dates. It's kind of like going through that 3-step process again. It's not just one thing, you gotta go through it. Now, in this case, no EMIS attributes need to be reported for the scenario where you're changing the start date. Because you're changing those to attending days, all right? Okay, so on page 47, same thing, except now we have to change the last day of school. Again, calendar dates wizard. Be careful which one you click there. And you change it EMIS updates, again, no attributes need done, just the dates need done. But does it change anything else? And if it changes anything else, you've got to follow the process of changing it. It goes in on page 49, and I do just wanna touch on this just a little bit. Only students on a particular sub-calendar attend. How to configure the calendar, so a day is not attending for all students, but a students assigned to a particular sub-calendar. Do you have kids that it only affects on their calendar? You need to make sure that's the calendar that you're working with. You've got to be very simple, about not going into all of them, but only picking what's going to be affected when you're making any changes at all. Adjusting sub-calendars whose days have been lengthened for a period of time. I don't know that any of us do that at this time. Have we ever done that? Not that I know of. Does anybody on Zoom need us to go over that? 11 minutes? Okay. Nothing? Nope. All right. Now, on page 51. All this is an attendance reminder. Students' attendance, less than 100%, mark them accordingly. You know, everything's based on the calendar, but if the calendar is based on a student attending 100% of the time. If they do not attend 100% of the time, so you have some kids that are homeschooled, that might come into your building for just 25% of the time. You wanna report those kids, they're getting education from you. If it's 25% or 15%, whatever it may be, you need to report their percent of time accurately there. And then at the bottom, you're gonna see HB 410, truancy tracking, so everything based on these calendars. Trigger attendance letters, trigger all those things, so if we're not reporting it properly, and we have a kid. And I think I may have said this already, comes in, he has late arrival at 9 and he comes in at 11 o'clock because he's late every day. And you don't report any of that. He's not gonna get an attendance letter after a month of being late for how many hours? 2 hours a day. So those are things that you need to think about and make sure that your buildings are reporting properly. Now, to finish up this training, we're actually gonna go back to the beginning. That's what everybody wanted to hear, right? And we're gonna go back to page. And we're gonna do the calendar collection, which is page number 6. Now, once you've done all of your calendar things, you're pretty comfortable. You don't have to be 100% comfortable. It's okay to get errors and have a guide on how to correct those errors. This checklist is a great guide on how to correct those errors if you come up and you have some. But to be able to do this, you want to do all of your exceptions, your calendar needs to be done. But then when you get in here, you have got to submit this through EMIS. So you're actually going to hit student information, EMIS, and you can see assessment reporting calendar A, but the second one down, calendar reporting collection C. And if you go over, you can also see, you can look at your bulk exception management, but hopefully you've done that. You can see your calendar collection transfer. That's the only way it's gonna get into EMIS R to go on to do. You're gonna collect your EMIS collection, C, you have to be at the district level. And I transfer it, cause I wanna know what's going on. Once I transfer it, I'm picking all there is, I'm doing a flat file transfer for the data collector, and I'm submitting that. And then I want it to go over there, I wanna see it. And so, if you want to see your settings and your management, it will tell you that it's complete right here. And what that means is that you can then go into your EMIS R, so however you wanna get there. You're going to sign in, if you're not already signed in. calendar collection. Could be your first, or it could be your second, third, whatever, based on what collections you have there. In this case, the district that I'm in is third one down. I'm gonna click start collection, and I am in a district right now. I think it will show anything, so. And I'm gonna click flat files, and I'm gonna start my calendar collection. Now, some people do collect and prepare at the same time. I happen to be one that doesn't, but it's fine if you do. I wait till it's ready and I hit the prepare. And I'm gonna say, oh geez, that looks good, doesn't look like there's any errors here, but if you had errors, they're gonna be in your prepare. And that's where you would start to clean those up. Oh, what did I miss? I must have forgot to put hours in, I must have forgot to put zeros in. What did you miss? If you have no errors there, you can go in and preview your prepared data. And what I do there is I look and make sure that there's nothing missing, there's no invalids, and I can see that I've got 20 calendars out there. Everybody will have a different amount based on how many subcalendars they have, all of those things. If this looks good, you would certify and submit it. If it doesn't look good, you still want to certify and submit. Like now is the time, you should have your calendar collection submitted at least once. But here's what some people do, and I'm gonna warn you against this, is they'll do one exception. And then they'll submit their calendar. And it'll look like they have no errors. There's errors out there that you need to remember that you've got to go in and do all your exceptions, not just that one. But we were always trained, at least do one exception, so your calendar will go through. But don't forget to go back and finish your calendar. And so that's kind of where I'm at, like right now, after this training, now I would go in and make sure all my exceptions are in and everything looks good as it's supposed to. Now, a lot of times during the initial calendar collection, you don't have hardly any changes. You know, if the snow doesn't come, you know, those kind of things, everything stays normal, the power stays on. You know, you're gonna be able to move right into final collection. That's usually when you get into more exceptions, days off, and those kind of things. So, but then you're gonna certify and submit this and your calendar collection if it's clean. Now, you also need to watch out for when there's a new manifest, and it'll come across there when you go into EMIS, it will say, hey, it'll say it in red, you need to recollect. And that's always in EMIS under your collection, so when you're looking at your collection, like, oh, well, I must have missed an email, I didn't know I had to resubmit my calendar. My calendar was good, I'm afraid to submit it again. Nope, you gotta submit it again. But usually you're gonna see those up here, it's gonna say right there that you need to resubmit your collection. It means that they added something to it, is what it means. Doesn't mean that it's gonna cause you errors, just means that they're looking for more stuff. The first time they pulled it, they realized that they didn't have everything they needed. That's all that means. So we kind of went from the start of our checklist to the back to the start, if that makes any sense. And always remember, to get anything corrected, to get anything reported properly, it all starts in progress book DASL. Everything there before it goes into EMIS, and then what you want to make sure is that you've submitted this, certified and submitted this to ODE. If you don't finish that final step of certifying this, it didn't go anywhere. It's still set there. It did not go anywhere. You must send that through. The only way you're gonna get level 2 errors is if you send that to ODE. If you don't send it, you don't get level 2 errors and you think you're doing okay, you're not. You need to look for those. And so I can see on the calendar collection, this has been submitted. I can do this and I can say, you know what, I'm gonna certify and submit this. And down the road, if I check tomorrow or whenever, I may see level 2 errors. That's something that you should always be paying attention to, not just in this collection, but all your collections. Where you can see, oh my gosh, my calendar collection has level 2 errors. What in the world could have happened there? What did ODE not like that I sent in that I had 0 level 1 errors? So you have a lot of checks. You know, you have your DASL that you're in, you know, no errors there, they come over in level 1s, there's no level 1s, certify and submit, are there level twos? No level twos, you send a clean collection. Okay, so I have just now completed my very first ever training, which I was pretty nervous about, but, please do not hesitate to let me know what I've done wrong or right, or what you think should be covered in depth more or less. I think as, you know, I've been around for 25 years. And so when I'm reading through some of this, I'm like, oh, we would never do that. That's not the case. Just because I think that we haven't done it in 25 years, not the case. So if I skip something and you didn't even know you had to do it, and you realize later, please send a help desk ticket. The other thing about help desk tickets is if we receive one and then we receive a second one, we're gonna know that it's a problem. So like ECE is a great example, like I received two. And I'm thinking, well, it is a due problem. We're waiting for EC kids to come on. We need their calendars, we need their reporting, we need all that. But if we don't know, we can't find out what's going on or why it's missing. And then you spend all that time trying to figure out, I don't know about everybody else, but I would think it's me. I would say, oh, this is me. I've done something. Not always the case. It can be a deeper problem. So just let me know and hopefully I'll fix it for next time. Thanks for your patience, everyone.
You did great, Ryan.
I have two things. One is not in the checklist, so I just wanted to make sure that you guys are aware, and Brenda doesn't know what she's gonna be driving. But in the analytic hub, do not forget, under your EMIS tab, there is the EMIS calendar comparison document or report. Make sure you guys are using that as kids are switching from one kindergarten calendar to the other and so forth or whatever. Because she said it multiple times, the general tab, that is your reporting calendar, needs to match with your FS calendar. So if those don't match, that's gonna cause a problem, not only for you, for the teachers trying to take attendance and so forth. So this report will go through it and compare, so you can see. It also shows you percent of time, things like that are also helpful for a good check. We haven't been doing this lately for our trainings, but just so we can work with Brenda to make sure and see how you guys like it. These are around the room. It's also really tiny up on the board, but if you guys wanna fill out the quick survey, we can share details with Brenda, and stuff as we go through more and more trainings. So these are around the room in different places. Feel free to, you know, or if not, share with her or whatever, but I think she did a wonderful job.
This comparison's great. You can see it, default. But you can also see if there was something that was not correct. Which would have been really good of me to use before I tried to submit my KRA data. Just everybody knows, really good for me to use this, but I didn't.
I do have a level one,
Oh,
it's just a warning, and it's telling me I don't have enough preschool hours.
I got that same thing.
We don't have a preschool this year though.
oh, you don't have a preschool?
No, but the calendars are still there, should I make them inactive?
I get rid of them. Yeah, if you don't have a preschool this year, don't keep the calendar.
And then that would maybe go away.
Yeah, I would
I'll
definitely
try that. I mean, we still have our tri-county preschool,
But you don't take attendance for them.
no,
Thank
they're all our status students
Yeah.
moving elsewhere, I mean, we report them because of like the IEP students.
And remember, it's not gonna pull any non-attending. If you have a non-attending calendar, it's not gonna pull it. So if you have a default calendar in your general tab, you have a non-attending tab, a calendar in your FD tab, it's gonna cause problem for that student, so remember that. This is a great report, this comparison report, thank you, Shelley.
I don't know why they don't put it in the calendar document. I don't know.
Yeah. So what about your preschool then?
Yeah, it makes them red too.
So-
Right.
Yeah.
They don't
Still have the preschool,
Yeah.
yes?
Yes.
And you had it set